All right, then I'll just find what I need from the wreckage, and I'll just MacGyver it back together.
MacGyver? What does that mean?
Welcome, one and all. We're back this week discussing Quantum Leap Season 2 of the 2022 Revival Series, Episode 1, this entitled. But before we crack into it, spoilers do lie ahead. If those aren't for you, please check back after you've watched the episode. This episode for Ben Song picks up directly where he left off in the season finale last year, but for us, the audience, it's been quite a wait, and for apparently other characters within the show, it's been an even longer wait, but we'll get to that later because I want to get into the actual nuts and bolts of this episode first. So Ben, as his perspective leads, is picking up directly after those events of the finale, where he was retrograde leaping, dealing with Martinez, hopping into the future to see that there's possible shenanigans happening, and then thinking he's coming home, thinking he's finally going to meet back up with Addison, thinking he's going to stop with all of these leaps and stop with all of this stuff. So to have that kind of pulled out from under him is where we pick up in this episode, and it is nice to see that while all of that stuff's going on, Ben is still able to be a very competent person in this episode. His memories have started coming back, so he has all of his training and all of his scientific brain to lean on. He also has the experience gained from the leaps in Season 1 to draw upon, so it is nice to see that he is actively and actually still capable of putting up with the leap situation, even though he doesn't necessarily want to be in this situation. What was a little bit interesting here, and it did feel slightly out of character and overplayed a bit, at least in my opinion, is all of the references to out of time stuff. He does that more than a couple of times in this episode, and while it was fun and it was nice to see these little jokes and it was kind of played up for the humor of the moment, it did seem a little out of character for him to consistently and constantly reference things that he knows are in the future to the point of view from 1978 where he finds himself. So to have those foibles still coming up each and every time throughout this episode does feel a little inconsistent with the fact that he would be coming to terms with that, fitting into the role a little better, but I'm not going to ding it because overall this episode felt like it was trying to throw back and pay homage to those early 80s type of action shows, which kind of feels on point because the original Quantum Leap was coming off of that, but it kind of feels like maybe an A-Team type situation directly referencing the A-Team, or a MacGyver situation, which is also directly referenced in this episode. So I think that that's kind of the play they're going for, the over-the-top, not realistic type of 80s action TV series where things don't need to make sense. Rocket's technology and the way enemy soldiers and the army and stuff works doesn't have to necessarily feel 100% consistent with the real world, because it wasn't 100% consistent with the real world in that time frame. Characters didn't die in that time frame. They were just shot and they were all okay. The van would blow up. They're all okay. Although technically the pilot in this episode did die, so I guess one mark against that. But overall, I think that this was just a fun episode. Now, I have seen some people having a hard time coming to terms with the fact that a woman officer was leading a mission in the Air Force during this period of time.
So we're gonna die because of feminism? No thanks. I'm a big no thanks on that.
And I know that's not necessarily maybe congruent with our real world history, but there could be several things going on. This is Quantum Leap. History could have been changed due to the leaps. This is also a light-hearted pastiche of 80s TV shows, so I don't think that necessarily needs to feel like a real world situation. I kind of feel like, and maybe this is just me overthinking and overanalyzing, that this team of ragtag A-Team-esque people here is being set up for further inclusions in this season of Quantum Leap, or dare I say it, a backdoor pilot to have this as a spin-off series, kind of like an A-Team in the Quantum Leap universe, but not really being directly connected. I feel like these characters were developed too much, and they left a little bit too much on the table to not come back into play, so either we're going to have Ben continuously leap into the lives of these characters throughout the season, or they are planning a little spin-off series with these characters down the line, or I'm completely overthinking and this is the last we'll see of any of them. All of those could be true, probably more likely the latter, but in my opinion, I think we're going to see them again. The overall story of being shot down over enemy territory, finding out that you've been abandoned by your own military because you were kind of the decoys, needing to figure out a way out of that situation, doing so, and then succeeding with a couple of little snares along the way. Not the most fresh, not the newest thing we've ever seen, but it was definitely engaging and interesting, at least to me, and I thought that the less serious way it was treated, the almost quasi-lighthearted comedic way, like I keep saying from an 80s TV show standpoint, it really did kind of work because the seriousness of Ben being lost in time and what we learn at the end of the episode definitely kind of made this feel a little bit less dour and stuck in the mud as it could have. Now, I keep referencing the end of the episode, so let's actually get to that. We discover that while Ben has immediately gone from the end of season 1 to this leap, at least as far as he can recall, that's not the case in the real world.
Ben, it's been 3 years.
So instead of this being 2023 in the modern day scenes, I suppose it would now be 2026 or possibly 2025 if they never made it out of 22 in season 1. So that's definitely going to present a lot of issues. And I will go over an article because the creators behind the show have laid out why they did that. But this could lead to several different possibilities. We got to see no modern day or present day scenes in this episode. All of the scenes we saw with the modern day cast were actually scenes prior to that first leap. They were flashbacks showing Ben finally hooking up with Addison and the rest of the characters kind of developing the Quantum Leap program. So I guess that was a way to keep them in the loop. What does this actually mean for Ben? Has he been going on adventures he can't remember? Was he potentially locked in stasis for 3 years and he didn't actually leap until maybe they turned that Quantum Leap accelerator back on? Who leapt into that Quantum Leap accelerator at the end of season 1? My thoughts were they were leaving it open in case they could get Scott Bakula back. I don't believe that's the case. I don't think he's going to be coming back, or if he is, it's going to be a long road to get there. Enterprise reference, I suppose. Now, they actually kept referencing the surface-to-air missiles in this episode as SAMs, and that's probably real protocol for military people, but to me, it kind of felt like they were wink, nudging us as the audience to, we need to get over Sam. We need to jettison Sam from the storyline. He's not coming back. We're not dealing with Sam anymore.
They're about to fire Sam.
But I don't know, I'm probably putting too much thought into that. It just felt like they were saying, you know what, this didn't work out, we're not bringing Bakula back, so just deal with it. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully we do get some Sam in the future. But for right now, it seems like they're moving away from that, which brings me to the article I referenced earlier. So I'm actually going to go over that. So come with me. Now, here we are over at NBC.com where the producers and the creatives spoke about that season 2 shocking twist, the game-changing twist to kick off season 2. Sorry about my grocery store ad there. So I'm going to skip a lot of this because most of it's just setting the stage and a little bit of background and blah, blah, blah. But it seems like the main narrative decision for what they're doing comes down to the fact that they're trying to play up the Lost in Time angle of the original Quantum Leap series, which is streaming in full on Peacock. Get that plug in there. As the series ended with Dr. Sam Beckett still lost in the time stream, and he remains lost to this point in the Revival series canon. Thank you for calling it a revival and not a reboot. Take notes, Frasier, since that's not a reboot either, but you seem to be promoting it as such. While the established precedent of Leapers getting lost in time, it seems the team assumed Ben had suffered the same fate. And then we come down here where Grismer, one of the creators behind the scenes, getting to play out the repercussions of that twist this season is deep in the storytelling of the whole mythology. We wanted to tell that story and not just start the next day, he said. We leap a little bit further into the future by years. And it's just exciting because you can see a lot of story and characters just by how they're living now. It was an interesting way to tell a story, and I found it exciting to be part of that. And then they kind of just go off a little bit on the behind-the-scenes things. So here's what's a little bit interesting to me about what that says. I think that's kind of implying the fact that they wrote themselves into a little bit of a corner by the end of season 1, having that mysterious person leap into Project Quantum Leap, and possibly how they were going to get to the point in time where the Quantum Leap project was shut down. So instead of having to directly play off of and show us the instigating factors that start off all of these changes, they've just skipped over all of them. And I think part of that might be they just didn't want to address the way they ended season 1 because they were kind of planning a mysterious comeback with maybe Scott Bakula. That fell through, so now they're just scrapping that and just soft rebooting things. It kind of feels like that soft reboot of Timeless when their facility was blown up and they had to go on the run, and that was a budgetary issue, I believe. But it seems like they may just want to kind of tweak and adjust how they're telling this story, and they don't want to have a fully fledged facility behind it. or maybe they don't want to show us all of the events leading to the new status quo because that would just take too much time. And I think that might be an engaging storytelling element to see now Ben has to be caught up once again with what's going on in the modern day. He had just fully caught up with everything in the end of season 1, so now he's going to be a fish out of water again. I also think we were led to believe we were going to have at least 2 leapers in this season, where Addison was going to be leaping again. Since they are now implying the Quantum Leap project is shut down, maybe that's not going to happen either, and maybe she went on her own adventures off screen trying to find Ben, and that led to the program being shut down. Again, all speculation, but I am definitely intrigued to see what they do this season. Well, that's going to do it for today. What did you think of this episode? What do you think about the future of Quantum Leap? Do you think these characters are actually going to pop up again? Are we going to have more of a serialized story going forward? We didn't see where Ben's leaping into in the next episode, and I'm very curious to see what has changed in the present day scenes, which are now going to be set in our future. All of that could be intriguing, all of that could be a mystery box, or all of that could fall flat and things change again. Leave all your thoughts down below, like, share, subscribe to all of those YouTube things. But until next time...
Nobody's coming here, LT. Okay, nobody cares about a ragtag collection of washouts.